Sunday, December 25th. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. "39 different advisories, different types of advisories, and are currently active here in the United States, and that's without any type of severe weather outbreak, which is quite amazing. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings, no tornado warnings. Even without all that, we still have 39 different advisories that are active, issued by the National Weather Service across the country, including ice storm warnings, blizzard warnings, and all different other types of advisories and warnings. That just gives you some idea of an enormous amount of weather that's taking place here in this country. But really, that's only the beginning. There's a lot of interesting weather that's going on, which is not covered by any type of advisory at all. Forecast highs in the desert Southwest today, parts of Southern California. There will be local areas that will likely go into the mid and upper 80s. In fact, potentially temperatures could even hit 91 degrees, somewhere between 86 and 91. The past several days, we've been seeing high temperatures in the mid 80s for that part of the country. They will likely peak today, so we're going to probably see high temperatures a little bit warmer than that. Upper 80s, the National Weather Service mentioned the possibility of some localized areas, perhaps potentially the highest peak being 91 degrees. This is really warm. We're dealing with a time of the year when the sun is the weakest. The solar insolation is the weakest. The days are the shortest. Los Angeles forecast high in the low 80s for today. Temperatures in that part of the country are just unusually warm. We have a major Pacific Northwest Pacific storm. That's coming onto the coast within a day or two. But, in the Gulf of Alaska, a very intense low pressure system here in the Midwest, even on the East Coast, we get worked up about storm systems that are less than 29.0. There's a storm system in the Gulf of Alaska that's around 28.05 right now. That's just really, really intense. That thing is going to be the next Pacific storm to expect then to drop south. That's going to be forecast to bring heavy snow and heavy rain to that area, with forecast amounts of rain anywhere between 1 to 3 inches, some areas 2 to 4 inches, some areas up to 10 inches. That's localized amount up to 10 inches. The rain doesn't arrive to the Phoenix, Arizona area until later this week, until Thursday, possibly Wednesday. There's a lot of difference within the timing of when this rain is going to arrive. There's also an enormous amount of difference in the models in regards to how much is going to be falling. The European computer model has the next 10 days, the Phoenix area receiving more than an inch. So we're going to see what's going to have to happen in regards to that. The Phoenix, Arizona area today, highs low 70s. Los Angeles, low 80s. The San Diego National Weather Service has mentioned that although it's a light event, but there are Santa Ana winds which are going on. Northeast winds that are downslope winds from the mountains, which have compressional warming, and that's why temperatures get so warm over there. Although San Diego temperatures seem to stay the same, but within that area, that's where we're seeing temperatures. I saw a place earlier today, a reported temperature of 88 degrees. I don't know if that's going to be official or not. If that's, I don't know what to do with that 88 degrees, but maybe temperatures got warmer. Maybe that's not considered official, but there were some stations reporting temperatures in the upper 80s earlier today. More than one report of temperature of 88 degrees. But I think all of that pales in comparison to what went on in Florida today in Brevard County, and also very close to Brevard County. This wasn't in the forecast at all, to my knowledge. Temperatures were too warm for snow, but it snowed anyways. Only those living there would know for sure what happened. Snow formed in Osceola County, Osceola, Florida. It moved to Brevard, Bervard County, Florida. It ended by 11 a.m. The reason for the precipitation falling as a coming down frozen, despite the fact temperatures were probably in the upper 30s, maybe even warmer, but generally speaking, that's not cold enough for snow. The reason why that happened is because of a phenomenon known as evaporative cooling. Those types of things generally intensify when the air mass is dry. I don't know if the air mass was dry or not. I imagine it was. So the evaporation rate was higher than usual, and evaporation absorbs some of the heat, so it automatically brings temperatures down. And that's what happened over here. So despite the fact that the air temperatures may have been in the upper 30s, the precipitation, right along the precipitation, that dropped to 32. It was 32 degrees, of course. It had to be, it couldn't have been higher than that. It wasn't all snow from what I understand, but it was different types of wintry precipitation coming down, and it was a real surprise and something which some of the people appreciated because of the time of year that we're in. I don't believe anything accumulated, but that came up totally out of the blue, a complete shocker. If any 90-degree temperatures occurred in the desert Southwest, I wouldn't say that's a complete shocker. We've seen stuff like that even in January last year. I remember a day when the temperature hit 96 degrees, so in the desert Southwest. So plenty going on, very interesting stuff going on over there, and interesting stuff in Florida, and it's going to take a while before the warmer air returns to Florida. However, a major warming trend, of course, it's getting underway starting tomorrow. High temperatures in Orlando, Florida today were expected to be mid-40s, but they're going to, the European computer model, and probably these are the forecasts, temperatures becoming warm and humid. To most people in this country, a better adjective really is hot and humid by the weekend. Swimming weather without a doubt. Temperatures go into the low 80s, dew points in the upper 60s by Shabbos, by Saturday for Orlando, Florida. We have areas in Florida going right back up into the mid-80s. That's where they were last week, in the mid-80s, and we do have 70-degree dew points, which will be occurring in the early part of next week. So this is unseasonably warm and humid weather for Florida comes back. That's well above normal. This isn't even Miami. This is in central Florida. And right now, the East Coast, the entire East Coast for the beginning of next week, according to both global models, European and GFS, it's not usual to have both consistency amongst both of them, show unseasonably warm air across the entire East Coast. I should say I only got up to the Philadelphia area. I didn't look past that, but there's a very good chance it goes well past that. Temperatures well into the 60s, even some 70s in the mid-Atlantic area for the beginning parts of next week, and even getting mild before then. It's going to take a while before the warm air hits that area, as opposed to the Midwest and the plains where the warm air is coming in right away. All we have here in the Midwest is we have a clipper system and we have a shortwave impulse. The more simple terminology really for the shortwave is really just a pocket of cold air or a piece of energy that's out ahead of the clipper. That piece of energy, by the time you get to a city like Cincinnati, Ohio, it's actually the Alberta Clipper's weakening. So the clipper, which this morning was the main system, which produced probably somewhere between 2 and 6 inches of snow. In fact, for many hours, visibility was down to a quarter mile in North Dakota because of this, what we call a rinky-dink clipper, but it wasn't so rinky-dink. Snow-to-water ratios were 20-1. It fluffed things up, and accumulations were higher. In fact, accumulations were even higher than forecasted. They upped the forecast to 3 to 5 inches in the middle of the event in the Minneapolis area, and it wouldn't be surprising if some areas saw 6 inches. Usually clippers don't produce that amount, but if you're dealing with fluffed up snow like that, you can get something like that. So we have that clipper, it's weakening. Even up north, it's been weakening. It's going to weaken so much, there's a chance it might do nothing by the time it hits the Cincinnati area. But there's a piece of energy that has developed ahead of the clipper, That is going to be the main precipitation maker for a place like Cincinnati tomorrow, probably accumulations around an inch. That's what they're calling for. And then the actual Clipper system comes in later in the day, and it's a hit or miss on that one. No, I don't know if anybody really knows right now if that's going to be producing accumulating snow. For the St. Louis area, it's also in a weakening phase, but it's going to... the further east you go, the more weakened it is. So St. Louis is further west, so there will be some type of accumulating snow that's forecasted from the Clipper. These Clippers move very quickly, and therefore, actually, sometimes they're difficult to forecast. They don't even have the track for sure laid out. The thing about this Clipper is that for the piece of energy in front of it, it's not so relevant what the exact track is. It's really the snow is widespread enough that accumulations are going to be 1 to 2 inches. But for the Clipper itself, it's important to have the exact track to know which areas are really going to get hit. These things are going south of Chicago, both of them. Chicago might get nibbed with maybe a few flakes of snow, something like that. But that's really about it. Very little in the way of snowfall accumulation, if any, for the Chicago area. This is more, it's going to the south of Chicago as of now. That's the current forecast in regards to the Clipper. The warm air starts up right after this Clipper leaves. That's when the warming trend comes. Missouri is probably going to be the peak warmth. We have the GFS model showing temperatures in Joplin, Missouri going up to 70 degrees. Both models, European and the GFS, have temperatures going into widespread 60s across Missouri, low 60s for St. Louis, mid 60s for Rolla, Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, upper 60s perhaps. Not the European computer model doesn't show upper 60s, but these are minor things. Upper 60s, mid 60s, low 60s. Dew points going up into the upper 50s for southern Missouri, going into the 60s as you get further south in Missouri. In regards to whether this next upcoming storm system, this is associated with a storm system. It's that storm system that will be bringing on the West Coast. You have the Thursday night, Friday, the Thursday night, Friday heavy rainmaker. That's for Louisiana. The Shreveport, Louisiana is dealing with that, with weather. Exactly what parts of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana are going to get hit. There's uncertainty in regards to the track of the event. There's also uncertainty as to whether there's going to be a severe weather outbreak with this event and to what extent there would be a severe weather outbreak. I don't know why there wouldn't, but at least to some extent, because thunderstorms are a possibility, even in the St. Louis area. As far north as St. Louis, we still have possible thunderstorms with this upcoming storm system later on in the week. Even without the severe weather, though, a heavy rainmaker, several inches of rain is a good possibility in that part of the area. Here's a huge story going on in Buffalo, New York. 3 feet, over 3 feet of snow. Some of this is not even lake effect, but a blizzard, 16 consecutive hours of zero visibility was reported over the weekend in parts of the Buffalo, New York area. Another 6 to 12 inches on the way for tonight in some of the areas. Over 3 feet snow totals expected over there. This is in response to the storm system that moved across the Midwest over the weekend, which brought the first blizzard since 1978 for the Cincinnati area. Cincinnati saw officially 3 consecutive hours of blizzard conditions. So it was officially a blizzard in Cincinnati since 1978. The criteria for a blizzard is not the amount of snowfall that falls, but rather the greatly reduced visibility, a quarter mile or less for a few hours, based upon the combination of snow or blowing snow. In a ground blizzard, it doesn't even have to be snowing. So Cincinnati saw that Thursday night. We also had flash freeze conditions in the area and much of the Midwest. The storm track moved further east. The widespread event associated with the Arctic front, I believe that was an accurate forecast. The snow associated with the main system, the storm track went further east than anticipated. I also think it had less Gulf moisture, and at some point, maybe even the moisture got completely cut off from the Gulf. I think that's because it took a track that was far enough east where the flow from the Gulf there's a low pressure system that was situated in the northeast part of the Gulf, which was blocking that flow from the Gulf of Mexico. So had the storm developed further west, I think there would have been major Gulf moisture and the snowfall amounts would have materialized. In the Midwest, the ingredients needed for a major winter storm, which is defined as 6 inches of snow or more, what you need is strong Arctic high pressure, a deep low pressure system, and the storm has to tap into Gulf moisture, copious amounts of Gulf moisture. If you don't have those 3 ingredients, you're not going to get a 6-inch snowfall. And so over here, we did not have those ingredients. Therefore, in general, the 6-inch snowfall wasn't reported except in areas that got lake-enhanced snow, or, there might have been areas that got more than 6 inches even without that in parts of Indiana or Michigan. It's hard to tell what was lake enhanced, what wasn't lake enhanced, and also the ratio to like what's going on in Minnesota today, that doesn't have Gulf moisture, and yet there are places that likely got 6 inches because of the 20-to-1 snow-to-water ratio. Those extremely high snow-to-water ratios are more common in bitterly cold air, which is what we're seeing. Temperatures dropped to 50 below zero last week in this country. Thursday morning, we saw 40 below zero by Friday morning, and temperatures in the Dakotas dropped down to 29 below zero, and we saw that Saturday morning. Maybe it was even colder before. So we saw some extremely cold temperatures, 24 below zero in Denver, Colorado, with a forecast high this week going up to 60 degrees. Orlando, Florida, it looked like they dropped into the low 30s. Again, highs going into the low 80s there by the end of this week. And that's a city which is having a change of season, perhaps the only city in the country. That's the only area in our country, the Southeast, which actually went into a winter season with snow even in parts of Florida, back into swimming weather, which for many that would be considered summer. The snowfall might just be considered fall by many, but actually Denver's also seeing a change. You're going from winter to spring weather, spring warmth, the temperatures. The Midwest, it's going from bitterly cold Arctic air to temperatures highs in the 60s. And it's going to have that moist feel. Relative humidity is going to be way up there. And I've noticed that although in the summertime, the dew point is a more accurate way to determine the comfort level in regards to the impact humidity has when temperatures are 95 or so. But when temperatures are around 60, relative humidity, I've noticed relative humidity seems to play a greater impact. You'll be able to feel the humidity despite the fact dew points are only in the upper 50s. That's what I've noticed from the past, based upon the fact that the relative humidity, the temperatures are also just about in the upper 50s. That's if that actually materializes, which it likely will, especially for areas along the Mississippi River. And the snowfall amounts, interestingly enough, in the St. Louis area, the National Weather Service mentioned that snowfall amounts might be higher for areas along the Mississippi River and east. So, that's a little bit of a contradiction from what we said earlier, where the further east you go, the less those snowfall amounts are going to be. So perhaps what we're going to have to say is that in a certain way, really, there's two systems. We have that short wave, which is developing. So I think the short wave is going to produce more snow when you hit the Mississippi River eastward. But the Clipper is a weakening system, and it might actually produce no snowfall accumulation by the time it hits Cincinnati, a little bit over in the St. Louis area. I read in Indianapolis area, between two of them, they could get 2 inches of snow, perhaps even somewhere around that, for areas that get hit by both of them, in the bullseye for both of them. Many areas will get clipped by both of them. The first one's more widespread. Okay, so we covered the Buffalo snowstorm a little. I'm sure there's a lot more to say on that, and dealing with the bitter cold in the storm track of last week and the high wind event. We didn't get into that, but 70 mile per hour wind gusts, very close to that. It's being reported in Buffalo off of some of the lakes. So very intense stuff over there. There also was approximately 2 inches of rain that fell in Buffalo before the snow started. So this is very significant stuff. Very, very significant stuff going on over there. There are enormous amounts of moisture that is on the ground. We have, of course, the places which are snow covered with a deep snowpack like Minnesota are not going to be able to achieve 60-degree warmth later on this week. The snowpack, the melting snowpack, is going to absorb a lot of that warmth, likely producing fog and drizzle. But places which do not have a deep snowpack, that a couple inches will melt quickly, and that's why you have places in Missouri. The places which have no snow on the ground are going into the up mid-60s. We said perhaps even 70 in some spots. Missouri seems to be the peak warmth right now. Things could always change, but in terms of the, Arkansas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, and then it stops at Missouri. Kansas is cooler than Missouri. Usually the peak warmth is in the plains. This time around it's more along in the Mississippi Valley westward, right around there. But the plains also, we have major warmth. Denver, Colorado hitting 60 degrees. Oklahoma, Kansas, there's a lot of 50s, maybe low 60s, but the potential of 70, if we hit 70, the potential is highest in the state of Missouri. You have been listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm. You will now hear a 1-minute trailer. Several additional feet of snow is expected by Monday morning. Yes! We have a powerhouse typhoon which has developed off in the Pacific Ocean. A big shockaroo to many of you. This is especially true in regards to what's going to be going on in Alaska. We have parts of the world that are so hot right now. Temperatures are expected to go into the low 130s. Hey, we have a special guest on our show. What is your name?
Katabis.
A heat wave that's going to be headed to the Eilat area. We're going to have to wait before we get into the next excitement. We're going from one extreme to the next extreme. 27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan.
Oh my gosh.
Weather. That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.